to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay. Again, my name is host Mike Jokum, returning after a couple weeks off to move down to sunny Florida. Is my co-host and comedic relief, Jess Baker. Jess, welcome back. How is everything? How's Florida?
I'm tan. I love it. I'm so excited to be here and just kind of get this new chapter going. I love it.
Yes, congratulations. It's probably much warmer there than it is in Indianapolis or Philadelphia or pretty much anywhere else in the country other than where Indy Car just left out west. How awesome of a segue was that? So, let's get right into it here and talk about last week. Your initial thought of the Long Beach race, better than the previous Arrowhead era, worse, about the same? What did you think? And then I'll chime in with my thoughts after.
I think it was better, honestly. I think there were some parts where it could have gotten a little blah because of Rossi just killing it. I mean, but I very much enjoyed we'll call it the raciness of what was going on track out of first place. I thought it was a brilliant race to watch.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think even though, as you mentioned, Rossi led, 72 out of the 85 laps, or 71 out of the 85 laps, there was a lot of battles for position within the field. Strategy was pretty intriguing for the most part, and there were enough yellows that made some pretty interesting restarts and plenty of action going on throughout the entire race. I think we're going to have to start with the biggest, I don't know if you want to call it controversy or topic, is the Bourdais pass or no pass, depending on how you look at it after the penalty. For those who might have somehow forgotten, Bourdais trying to pass by Scott Dixon and AJ Foyt rookie Matthias Leist got called for a penalty for driving over the pit exit line as he was trying to make a move. I'll jump in with my thoughts first here instead of putting you on the spot, Jess. I get why they call a penalty. I know Kyle Novak has gone on the record. The new race director is saying, we're not going to be lenient. A penalty is a penalty is a penalty is a penalty, and I'm fine with that. I don't necessarily have a problem with them calling a penalty on Bourdais for crossing that line because he crossed it. But at the same time, he crossed it, and I know it's tough to see it in real time, and even in the replays, you almost have to slow it down because you see Scott Dixon move over slightly because, Leist was on the far outside there. So Bourdais really has no choice but to do that or risk, hitting Scott Dixon or, really falling back and losing momentum. And I know it's been the topic, and Robin Miller and plenty of people have said IndyCar should have ignored the rule book and let the move go because it was an amazing pass. I don't know, though. I think if you start kind of enforcing the rules in this instance and not enforcing the rules in other instances, you just open up a can of worms that we might not really want to go down.
I will mostly agree with you. I'm going to disagree slightly, though. So, I got to disagree with you.
Sure.
I haven't been on here for 2 weeks.
Yeah, you've missed us making fun of you a little bit for your fantasy IndyCar standings right now.
Great. Yeah, we'll talk about that one later. So I agree and I disagree with IndyCar, kind of like you. I agree with him because, yes, they want to set a precedent of following the rule book. However, not only on this penalty, but on some of the other penalties, I thought that they were a little bit different than maybe what they should have been. I don't think that Bourdais did anything wrong. I think it should have been considered a defensive move. The whole point of what he did was to save his car. Do I think that he should have been penalized for crossing the line in that particular case? Probably not. Now, when you cross the line for any other reason, if it's just because, you want to make a wide pass and you have plenty of room, that's a different story. But he didn't have any room. He had nowhere else to go in order to save that car. If Indy Car wants to go that particular, maybe they should extend the pit lane wall a little bit. I mean, I don't know, but I think I like that IndyCar is trying to be fair in enforcing the rules. I just think they need to take some sandpaper to the edges and maybe really think about fan perspective, because that was the most amazing pass that I think I've ever seen.
Yep, definitely top 5.
And to then turn around and take it away. Granted, he got it right back, and I think that kind of was just a slap in IndyCar's face. But should he have basically had to slam on the brakes so Scott could pass him again? No. I don't think he should have had to do that at all.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I can see arguments from both sides on this one. Bringing us to our next controversy at Long Beach, which somehow this, whether you should keep the pit lane closed or open, always involves Scott Dixon. I think the man is just really unlucky with this, and I know Miss Emma Dixon is very opinionated in this topic as well. If anybody follows her on Twitter, you would see that she complained heavily about this. But both Dixon and Bourdais ironically get involved, stuck, in pit lane. Bourdais' team handled it the right way. It gave him a splash of fuel, which you are allowed to do under a closed pit. But Dixon, who was not yet quite in pit lane, could have simply driven through pit lane and, gotten his car serviced on the way, when the pits opened. Instead, his team continued to just, do a full service tire change and fuel pit stop. And I'll have to agree with Dixon after the race, going to himself, why did the team call that if the pits were closed? I wondered the same thing, especially because, his team had to know the pits were closed as he started entering pit lane there. So I'm not going to blame Dixon on that one. And I don't even think Dixon was as frustrated with the whole pit lane open or closed debate as he has been in past situations. What did you think of that? And then we'll go on the topic of keeping it open versus closed in general.
So I think that he didn't have room to argue with whether it was open or closed. The light was clearly showing.
You can see that in the replay.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Bourdais obviously knew, so why the team made that call is a really good question, and I'm sure that somebody got a big slap on the wrist if they didn't totally just get kicked off the team. But, yeah, no, okay, so here's my thing with the Scott Dixon penalty, and take it with a grain of salt. IndyCar used to do the stop and go penalty instead of just this drive through pit lane. And frankly, I think that is what the team deserved, because they did know better. My call basically said they knew better and did it anyways. So I kind of don't agree with the just drive through because, well, first of all, he did a full pit stop when pit lane was closed. Also, he ignored the penalty when it was issued to him and continued on for a lap. So I definitely think...
Very interested in that one, too.
Yeah, I definitely think that IndyCar should have been a little stricter and did a stop and go. It wouldn't have probably affected where he finished, honestly, all things considered. But it's one of the things I would kind of like to see come back. A drive-through can be kind of a slap on the wrist.
Yep.
Depending on what track it is. You can catch back up with the field real quick. It's unlikely you're gonna lose too much. You might lose a few positions, but you're not going to lose a lap. But the stop and go, you're almost guaranteed, no matter where you are, you will lose a lap, and it's kind of, I think necessary in some cases.
Yeah, losing a stop or a drive through at a track like Phoenix where laps are 20 seconds long is going to have a much bigger impact than a track like Long Beach that's 2 miles long roughly. I definitely can't disagree there. I was very curious as to why Scott Dixon decided to run another lap before serving his penalty. Maybe they were doing some sort of quick appeal. Who knows? I would like to know the Indy Car rulebook on that one. Just from years past. I know it was you had within a handful of laps to serve a penalty, but I don't know if that's still the case or if the rules changed or if I'm completely making that up. If somebody out there knows the rulebook.
You're correct. It is supposed to be on the lap that you are issued the penalty. You are supposed to do your penalty, and if not, you are to be black flagged. So they'll stop scoring. You can stay out as long as you want. You can run the rest of the race, but they won't score your laps. I don't know. I mean, I guess it would be a really close call where the team told Scott he needed to come in versus him staying out. I don't think it would be that close because honestly, from the way it looked on TV, is he had like a half a lap before he got to pit lane.
Yep.
So he could have pulled off. I don't know if he was kind of, for a lack of a better term, throwing a temper tantrum. But that's kind of the way I took it just from the TV coverage. And obviously I wasn't there. I wasn't listening to the radio, but that's kind of just the feeling I got from it.
Yeah, I really need to start using the Indy Car app and listening to the in-car radios more. I'm sure we would have heard more than, what Townsend Bell and everybody, Townsend Bell, Paul Tracy and everybody said on TV. But I felt like the TV guys were like you and I and going, what's going on right now?
Wait a minute.
This doesn't seem right. So, listen, I think, we shall see. Continuing on this same topic of pits open or closed, I know it's been discussed ad nauseum for years now when the IndyCar pits were open no matter what. Robin Miller talks about it every week in his mailbag, whether you agree or not. I'll start it off here. I have no problem keeping the pits closed. I think in the end, gets the cars back around closer together, provides a little bit of intrigue on pit stops, and it's probably the safer thing to do. Do I get why people want to keep the pits open? Sure, because people like Scott Dixon seem to get screwed over about once or twice a year. And, listen, I feel for him, but I think even Robin Miller, while saying that the pit should stay open, admitted that he was curious why Bourdais and Dixon didn't pit when Rossi had pitted 6 laps earlier, especially trying to follow the leader's strategy as close as possible, which most guys do who are second, third, fourth place and so forth. Why they went so far off his strategy, we'll never know. But I'm going to go on the record and say I'm fine with the pits being closed. I don't necessarily think they really need to change it. But I'll turn it over to you to see if you want to disagree with me on this one.
No, I really don't. I think that it is a safety issue. The majority of the safety vehicles are going to be located off a pit road. They need to be able to respond to whatever's going on the track. They need to be able to get out there. So, somebody coming down pit lane, granted, they're going slower than, 200 miles an hour, but it's still it puts more traffic on pit lane than needs to be. So it is a safety issue, and I think that keeping pit lane closed during yellow is fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. It used to be only when pit lane was actually blocked, either the entry or the exit, that they would close it. But I don't agree with that. I think, we're not just wanting the fans to stay safe, or the fans. I meant the drivers. As a fan, we don't just want the drivers to stay safe. Well, we want the fans to stay safe too, but we want the safety guys to stay safe. They're out there. They're also risking their lives, whether people realize it or not. They are, and I think that they should get every courtesy that is able to be given to them.
Yeah, I agree, and we'll make that our Twitter question of the week. Should Indy Car change the pit lane open closed rule? And I'm just writing that down so I don't forget here. Quick reminder before we dive deeper into this episode, we have just, by the time you guys listen to this, contest will be over, but the contest for the J-Fry, in J-Fry We Trust shirt plus 2 free pit and paddock passes to any race of your choice ends Friday after the end of the first IndyCar practice. So around lunchtime Friday, please leave your Twitter handle in the review. I'll even extend it, since most people will probably be listening to this at some point Thursday night or Friday morning. The end of the track day Friday, so 6 or 7 p.m. Central Time. Get your reviews in. There's a bunch already in there, and somebody's going to come away with a nice shirt and 2 pit and paddock passes to a race of their choosing, which is courtesy of the man Jay Fry himself. So thank you, Jay, and thank you, IndyCar for allowing that to happen. Going on, I guess, just kind of wrapping up Long Beach. I thought it was really, a great rebound race for Ed Jones, who was super strong in Phoenix and made one error, and obviously it cost him. But I felt like him, Zach Veach, who finished in 4th, and even my boy Marco, who finished 6th or 7th, drove quiet, but I'm going to call it efficient races. All 3 had top 10 finishes. All 3 came away with maybe some more confidence than they had in the previous couple of races, especially in Veach and Ed Jones' case. Ed Jones tied his career high and finished in 3rd. When he finished 3rd at the 500 last year, and Veach set. It was the first time he's ever finished in the top 5, let alone the top 10. So, props to them for driving. As Marshall Pruitt said online today, a clean race. So good on those guys, and good to see Marco have a clean and solid race after an atrocious start to the weekend. Any other Long Beach thoughts, or should we move on here?
Other than the fact that you kind of made me want to gag a little bit there with the whole Marco thing. We're good. Let's move on.
Moving on. What do you want to hit next? Do we want to do Barber? We want to do a little 500 talk. I know.
Let's just go straight to Barber. I mean, who's not excited?
I love Barber. This obviously, this year is the first year I'll have been there in person, but I think it's produced some outstanding racing, especially the last couple of years, and that was with the old Aero kit. I can't imagine how much the guys are going to be sliding around this week, and it's I think Barber was where that Rahal Pagenaud battle was, a couple of years ago, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
So I think it's going to be an outstanding weekend. I'm going to predict that Graham Rahal is going to be our winner here, because they were the strongest team in the test that had some good weather over the winter, and I think Rahal is on the right path so far this year, despite a couple penalties. What do you think?
I think that he's gonna kind of come back. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's gonna win. I think that he will definitely do well. I think that he has kind of the mentality almost that he needs to prove it after what happened last week.
Yep.
He even mentioned something on Twitter about, before the haters say anything, like he apologized, and I can appreciate that. Like I get it. Like I don't believe that he meant to do it, but I think that that's going to give him a little fire to go in and do well. Do I think he's going to win? No, I'm not sure. But I really don't have a good prediction. It's
Yeah,
such a crapshoot this year, honestly.
I think that's fair. I'm not going to retract my statement. I'm still going with Ray Hall as the winner here. And before we get too deep into Barber, if you watch the replay when he bumped into Pagenaud, if you watch it in slow motion, he's definitely trying to brake. You can see the rear of his car, I believe, slide a little bit. Obviously, you feel for Pagenaud getting wrecked in the first corner of the first lap of Long Beach, but props to Ray Hall for the second street race of the year, having to battle back from an early penalty to another top 5 finish. Do I think he did it on purpose, like you said? No, definitely not. Probably the good thing to come out and say, listen, before the haters say anything, because there were plenty of haters during the race and after the race. And hey, before we get too far into it, props on Carlin Racing and Charlie Kimball having a top 10 finish. And no, it wasn't anything super exciting, but after a really rough first 2 races, they had a good final third practice and a pretty good race. So good on them to start heading in the right direction. And I'm sure before we know it, they're going to be a contending team. But Barber, should be very interesting. Almost don't know what to expect. Like you said, it's been in such a crapshoot this year. But I think we're in for a good race. So we shall see. Again, it's the race is Sunday afternoon, NBCSN. I think green flag on the East Coast is 3:42 p.m. So whatever time zone you're in, add or subtract some hours there. I'll leave that up to you. Jess, what's next?
I just thought of something. I want to say
Yeah.
I think one person who will do well is going to be Wickens. I
Yeah.
mean, who would have thought? I knew he would do well, but my God, he's doing amazing. So I think he's going to have another huge race.
Yeah, I know we mentioned this last week when you were unpacking all of your stuff, but I think the SPM team in general has had a really strong start to the year. Almost, I don't want to say unexpected because Hinch is a fantastic driver, but they didn't test well at all in any of the spring tests, and all of a sudden Wickens leads 113 laps in his first two races. Hinch finished top 10 all 3 races so far, if I'm not mistaken, without looking it up, and Wickens was improving as the Long Beach weekend went along and looked like he had some good pace early before a gearbox failure kind of suffered him to a 17th or 18th place finish, a number of laps down. But valuable experience for him there, and especially a track like Barber that's a purpose built road course, even though it was purpose built for motorcycles, might fit into a guy who's been in those sort of racetracks for a number of years in the DTM series. I can't argue there. I think SPM's going to have another fantastic weekend.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, not exactly surprising, but kind of like unexpected for sure. I thought they would be, decent, but nothing to write home about. They're doing extremely well.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot from them for the rest of the year now, especially as the engineers get more comfortable. Lena Gade having no Indy Car experience before this year, having a few races under her belt, coming into the Indy 500, they may be a team to watch. Maybe not so much with that third car and Jay Howard, but he's not a bad racer. Maybe he'll surprise us this year.
You're probably going to get beat up for saying that, by the way.
Oh,
like
I know.
I feel the same way, but I know he gets a lot of hate, and I think that I think he's fine. I just think that he doesn't get enough practice, to be honest.
Yes, Yeah, I think that's definitely the name of the game here is he just hopefully he's able to take part in some of that testing at Indy. What's that now? In just a little over 2 weeks or a little under 2 weeks. I don't know if he is. I think he's part of the veteran refresher course that one afternoon. Hopefully he gets more than just one afternoon to get some practice in before the 500 week of practice. But I guess we shall see. I'm looking forward to being able to watch the veteran refresher practice because there are quite a few interesting names this year. Just doing one-offs, we have Hildebrand and Karam, and listen, we can't go 25 minutes and 44 seconds without mentioning Danica. Again, that was too long for us to go without mentioning her. Helio, I'm sure will be out there for a veteran refresher. But is anyone surprised that a couple weeks ago when they tested at Barber, Helio set the fastest lap of the race or practice? He's still a fantastic driver and still a contender to win. I know, was it you or Matt picked him in our who's going to win the 500 poll? I think it was Matt. Yeah. Yeah, you had Kanat. I know you had the least amount of votes. But we shall see. It's funny, and speaking of teams that have done well this year, Andretti Autosport's been another team that seems to have really found their groove. And you almost felt bad that Ryan Hunter-Reay just had a miserable Long Beach experience. From, getting run into to I don't even remember what happened to Ryan Hunter-Reay in the race, admittedly. But just, he really just had a complete miserable experience. He got the penalty in qualifying, and then, he got hit by Sato, I believe, in the race and had a flat tire. Yep, that's it. I'm rereading my notes now. And then, Jordan King's accident with Bourdais there at the end just blocked Hunter-Reay, and he lost some more positions. So I feel a little bad for Ryan because it seems like Andretti as a whole has had a good start to the year, including Hunter-Reay, and just one bad race. I know he was pretty disappointed afterwards.
I can't say that I blame him, but are you kind of getting tired of the "oh, woe is me" interviews that he's been doing lately?
To be frank, yes. And the only thing that drives me a little bit crazier than his interviews is Becky Gordon, Hunter-Reay. I don't know what order her last names go in there. Doing the woe is me on Twitter. I think it was in the Phoenix race. She complained about something, and I'm not sure if she realized, but he still finished in 5th place and had a really good race. But overall, yeah, I don't think any of the incidents were necessarily Hunter-Reay's fault this weekend. He just had bad luck, but he does have a way of speaking that makes you he's very dramatic.
Everything is always bad luck, and it's always awful, and, don't get me wrong, Ryan. I think you're a great racer. I think you're extremely talented. But it's the way he comes off. It's just very, I don't know. I just get
theatrical.
Yeah, I mean that's it. It's because it just wears on me in particular. I don't know about other people, other fans watching, but it just wears on me. And it's I know that he's not that way, normally. So I don't know if it's maybe just bad timing. I don't know. But anyways, sorry. I just wanted to bring it up.
No, I think, it's something that everybody sees. I know, personally, I am a little tired of Emma Dixon complaining on Twitter about the closed and open pits every time it happens. And I do feel for Scott because I think sometimes it's just bad luck, and unfortunately that's part of racing. I don't think that Mrs. Dixon has necessarily been as bad this year so far, but we shall see. And there's always time for change. I feel I'm not a fan of complaints like that on social media, but then again, it gets people talking, so I guess it's not the worst thing in the end.
Maybe not, but I may or may not have unfollowed Emma quite a while ago.
I've gone back and forth on that. I have, and then I haven't, and then I have, and yeah, I guess we'll give it a couple more races before I make up my mind again. I'm yeah. Anyway, moving on. Talking a little bit more about Barber. It looks like the race could be impacted by some rain on Sunday, which might make it even more interesting, considering these guys haven't even tested in the rain, and it's supposed to be beautiful on Friday and Saturday. I will post some weather updates on the Pit Lane Parlay Twitter page throughout the weekend while I'm down there, and there's a couple really good weather guys that tweet during the week leading up and all weekend during race weekend that are pretty accurate for the most part, so I will, I'll share their stuff out. I don't have the Twitter information in front of me right now, but Jess, I'll turn it over to you for a potential new team announcement, and we'll see where that takes us.
Yes. So after 2018, I guess, rumor is that Scuderia, it was, what was the second word? I've lost my train of thought. Help me.
Corsa.
Thank you, Corsa. I wanted to say Cortez, and I knew that wasn't right. That Corsa was going to be joining Indy Car. I don't know how valid the rumors are, but I mean, I'm always excited when I hear just people talking about wanting to come to IndyCar is exciting. Because several years ago that just wouldn't have happened. So this is absolutely fantastic to see another sports car team wanting to join. It's exciting, and I hope that they follow through. I hope that we have, I don't even know, 30 cars a race. Like, how fantastic would that be? It's not going to happen next year, but if we keep going the way we're going, it could soon.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think 26, 27, 28 cars at a non-Indy 500 race is possible in, let's say, 2 years. You have just looking at the list here, you have Carlin, who has 2 cars new this year. The team just mentioned has said they want 1 to 2 cars full time. Maybe next year, or maybe they do part-time next year, great, that's another car or 2. I'm sure as you guys listened last week, the SiriusXM CEO has joined as a part owner of Michael Shank Racing. I guess now it's Meyer Shank Racing. One, great for Michael Shank because that gets him more of a cash inflow to keep his IndyCar team running, and I don't know if anybody listened, but Mr. Meyer, I forget his first name, was interviewed during one of the practices this weekend. I think it was Saturday's IndyCar practice, and he said, listen, next year we'd love to run more races. I think some people took that as that he'd want to run full-time next year. I took it as instead of running 6 races, they might run 8 to 10 races, and he admitted, listen, we might be able to squeeze out an extra race or 2 this year now, which again is fantastic. But he did mention, listen, by 2020, I would love to be a full-time IndyCar team with with 2 drivers. Mr. Meyer himself lives in Indianapolis, and I think that's SiriusXM's second biggest office in the United States outside of LA. So progress there. Juncos might be more full-time next year. Who else am I missing here? Harding could easily add a second car in the future. We have teams like Bilardi Racing stepping up to partner with a program for the Indy 500 this year. With Bird Racing and AJ Foyt, maybe they somehow get into the picture. So I think 27, 28 cars is probably that sweet spot for a non-500 race, but it's definitely heading that way. And with all the positive momentum, I fully believe we will see an average of 25 full-time cars or 25 cars per race next year, and then in 2020 we'll see 27. Just an early spitball guess with absolutely no thought put into it.
I mean, anything over 25 is going to make me kind of clap my hands a little bit. Obviously the 500 is a different story, but any non-500 race, anything over 25 is just fantastic progress for this series. And again, it goes back to NJ Fry We Trust. Like, he is doing so many good things.
I need to get a sound pre-programmed soundboard so I can do the clapping sound right now.
I agree.
And I don't want to clap myself because it's just going to sound awkward, and I'm sure Mr. Dog sitting below me here will get all confused and excited if I start clapping. But yeah, I think, listen, this again goes back to NJ Fry We Trust and the great work that him and Mark Miles and the team have done in the last couple of years, and I'm sure we'll only get better, whether it be with a new chassis or another engine, or whatever plan they take. I have full faith in them that I don't need to start complaining about what I might want to see in a new chassis or another engine. I think they're on the right path, and I'm not actually, for the first time in many years, not really worried about the direction of the sport as a whole. Now, do I still have concerns? Sure, of course. Who doesn't? We've seen how it's been, 2008 to 2011, when it was kind of, I don't want to say it at its worst, but definitely at its lowest point. So we shall see. NJ Fry We Trust. Remember to buy your NJ Fry We Trust t-shirts so that you can support this great man. I'll tweet out the link again. We made a special store just for the J Fry shirt, so you can purchase them right online and make it easy. And those limited edition pit lane parlay hats, which if you buy one and you want it autographed by an Indy Car driver, just let me know and I'll work it out for all of our faithful listeners out there. There's only 5 hats made, so first come, first serve. Jess, what's next?
Let's see. We kind of covered. So I wasn't here last week.
Yes.
So can we just talk just a minute about Robin Miller?
We can. For those who maybe didn't tune in last week, guest host Matt Hickey, you can find him on Twitter at IndyCar_MN. Huge thanks for Matt for helping me out while Jess was away. Matt's an awesome dude and will be on plenty, I'm sure, for as long as this show continues. But I will let Jess, I think the Oval is dying debate is going to be here for a while. It was in Robin Miller's mailbag plenty this week as well. So I'll turn it over for your thoughts on the illustrious Robin Miller and his whining.
Yeah, I literally just rolled my eyes and shook my head, for those of you who obviously can't see me. I don't want that to sound wrong. I love Robin, and I think that his opinion is very good a lot of the time. However, there are a few things that he preaches about that I find very aggravating. The whole Oval thing is one of them. I think he is off base. And I think that IndyCar thinks that he's off base. If you look at their marketing, like 90% of the commercials that you see that are not for a specific venue.
Right.
So we're talking just strictly IndyCar commercials are on ovals. And we've kind of had the conversation. They're not only on ovals, they're showing accidents. And unfortunately, that is kind of what sells the series. And that's not what we are about, but that's what we'll call them, the casual fans They want to see it. They want to see the high-speed ovals. They want to see the crazy accidents. They want to see, they want to see what Indy Car was made for. And I hate to argue with Robin Miller, but Indy Car was made for ovals. It wasn't made for street courses and road courses. That was Champ Car. But
yeah, and just to step in real quick, and that's not taking anything away from some of the tracks like St. Pete was a good race this year. Barber, I'm sure, is going to be an awesome race. But yes, I completely agree with everything else you are saying. So I'll let you continue before I jump in again.
Yeah, no, that is not what I meant at all by any of this. I think some of the best races lately have been on street courses or road courses. But him saying that because those races are good, that ovals are dead is, I in my opinion, I think it's nuts. Did he see the 101st Indy 500? I mean,
did he watch Pocono last year? I'm sure we talked about this when our show first started, when the 2017 Pocono race was a little more fresh in our minds. But the 2017 Pocono race, outside of the recent Indy 500s, has been one of the best oval races in the last handful of years. Definitely, maybe not of all time, but the as I mentioned last week, the Newgarden power battle, where it looked like Newgarden was going to pass them for about the last 15 laps of the race. Ray Hall trading the first position every other lap with another driver. I can't remember who it is at this point. That Pocono race had everybody in the stands on its feet, and the crowd itself was, I don't know, numbers wise specifically, and I don't think Pocono has ever said, but was a much better crowd. Pocono started doing I think a concert on Friday or Saturday night, I forget what night, before the race, and they have some more stuff for kids there, like some sort of jungle gym. There's a little bit more entertainment wise in Pocono now than there was before. So I think he definitely missed that race too, even though I'm pretty sure I saw him on pit lane before the race.
Yeah, I believe I recall seeing him at some of these oval races we're talking about. But yeah, I don't agree with him on that.
No,
go ahead.
Nope. You go right ahead.
I was gonna jump subject.
Go for it.
I was gonna say, and then this week's race, the pre-race show, where he was talking about the great American racer. Now, God love him, Robin Miller. Like I said, I love you. I agree with you a lot of things, but this sport doesn't have to have, quote, the great American race car driver to be successful, because there are a lot of people who are fans of different drivers regardless of where they come from. Look at Scott Dixon, not American, and he has gobs of fans. Everywhere you go, you see Scott Dixon merchandise.
Will Power, Helios has tons of fans.
Yeah, I mean, like, to say that this sport is dying because we don't have the next great American racer and it's going to be Joseph Newgarden and he's going to be the next Dan Gurney. What? I mean, I think even Joseph kind of said, wait, what?
Yeah, it's funny if you read his... if you get around to reading his mailbag this week, he said, I didn't say that Newgarden was going to be the next Dan Gurney, blah, blah, blah. And I really wanted to be like, Robin, you kind of did. You did. You kind of did. Okay, you definitely did.
He did. There's no question in my mind. That's exactly what he said. And Joseph obviously thought the same thing, because he was like, I will never be Dan Gurney. But he's like,
yeah.
I like I said, and it's nothing against Robin. I love him. He is definitely allowed to have his opinion. I just don't agree with the last couple weeks of opinions that he's had.
I will say his mailbag this week is another one where I felt more frustrated. After a good start to the year, where it didn't seem like he was getting too whiny, this week, again, the whole... do we need a Newgarden versus Rossi rivalry? I don't think we need a rivalry like a NASCAR has. Not to bring that up on the show, or we don't need everybody hating each other. Just for the most part, these guys are friends off the track because they are with each other for 7 months a year, in buses next to each other, at the track all day with each other. Are there guys who hate each other? Sure, I'm sure everybody saw Bourdais call Charlie Kimball an idiot, which was kind of a funny interview. And I think he called somebody else an idiot. Maybe it was Matthias Laced. I can't remember. Oh, and he called Jordan King an idiot. Are there going to be rivalries like that? Sure, but what IndyCar and any racing series needs to be successful in today's day and age is good racing, excitement, and nice looking cars. And I think IndyCar is accomplishing all of that right now and continuing to head in the right direction.
I agree, and yeah, I mean, Robin, sorry to disagree, but not really that sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. It's frustrating, and obviously I think the series agrees because Robin Miller seems to kind of say all the time, well, if IndyCar, not that IndyCar listens to me, we know they're not, and we need to get Robin Miller on the NJ Fry We Trust bandwagon. Maybe I'll even put aside a shirt for him when I get to the track in May and say, listen, wear this and preach it.
Maybe he'll feel better if he puts it on.
Yeah, maybe. Listen, it is made from some super soft cotton type material from a print shop right down the street from me that does amazing work, Print Shop USA. I guess I should give them a plug. And I'll make sure Robin gets one that is fresh off the press when I get to Indy in 28 days or something along those lines. Moving on, we're hitting up close to the 50-minute mark here. I guess just real quick, I mentioned it last week, and I'll mention it again this week now that Jess is back. The F1 coverage did improve again. Did I watch the race in China this weekend? Most certainly no. It was at 2:50 in the morning, green flag start, and I don't like staying up that late no matter what. And I completely forgot to DVR it. I watched the YouTube highlights a little bit here and there, and it's cool to see Daniel Ricciardo win. I think he's got a great personality in a series that kind of seems to zap a lot of the personality out of people. Found it interesting today that he said, if the best that Red Bull can do on a mostly week in and week out basis is finish 6th, I'm going to be somewhere else next year. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then it got me thinking, and I'm kind of spitballing this as I talk here. I don't even necessarily think he'll join IndyCar because I think he's one of those guys who's terrified of ovals. But maybe we need to get Alexander Rossi talking to him and say, listen, man, find whoever you can get some money from for a sponsor, come on over here and join IndyCar. It's better racing and you're always competitive for a win. Is that something you'd want to see, or do you think he'll just take Kimi Räikkönen's seat in Ferrari and kind of, improve a little bit, but still be overall not that interesting?
It's really hard to say. I mean, honestly, it really is.
I agree.
I think it would be fantastic for IndyCar. I mean, obviously, look at what happened when Alonso came over. Granted, Daniel doesn't have quite the following that Alonso does.
Yep.
But at the same time, any exposure that the guys from F1 could bring to IndyCar is phenomenal, because I think a lot of people who were strictly F1 fans were shocked by the quality of racing. And I think it would be good for IndyCar. Do I think that he would enjoy it and he would want to do it? Maybe not. I don't know that he's terrified of ovals. I really don't. I don't know his whole backstory all that well. But, I mean, I think that that is something that can be overcome. I mean, again, look at Alonso.
Sure,
He had
sure.
never run an oval, and man, he was up there fighting. So I don't necessarily think that ovals would necessarily be the problem. I don't know if mentality-wise, if he would want to come over here. That's giving up a lot of
Money.
fame. Honestly, they can't really go out in public when they're overseas because everybody knows who they are, and here it's not quite the same. So it would be a huge lifestyle change, but it would definitely be good for the sport, I think.
Yeah, I know. I threw that one out there. It literally popped into my head as I was looking at the article ironically on CNN. I don't really know what I truly think of it. It would be cool because I think, Ricardo has a personality that would fit in well with the current group of IndyCar drivers. Maybe he could drink champagne out of his shoe in IndyCar, which still makes me want to gag. Not something I can plan on doing, although I'm sure in the heat of the moment, I get it. I like some of the other drivers and people's reactions when he says, "Here's a shoe of champagne." I'm going to skip on that one for now. I agree with you. I think it would be good for the sport. I feel like I've read somewhere that he was not a fan of ovals. I could be making that up. It could be another driver. I don't remember at this point. Just figured I'd throw that out there before we got to our pitfalls, and before we do, reminder: listen to the show on WildfireRadioSports.com or their Android or iPhone apps, 3:15 to 4:15 on Friday afternoons, and iTunes and Spotify and CastBox and wherever the heck else you would like to listen to your podcasts. Running out of time on the J-Fry contest that we already mentioned. Join in our discussions on the Twitter, on our Twitter at Pit Lane Parlay. I crack myself up sometimes. And if you happen to be in Barber this weekend, I'll be around the track all day. Most of the day Friday, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. Come say hello and chat, and let's talk about IndyCar racing in general. And with that, Jess, since you've been off for the last 2 weeks, moving to sunny Florida, I will turn it over to you for your pitfall first.
Yay! So my first sunny Florida pitfall isn't so sunny for somebody. And I could be off point on this because I didn't do my research after the race. I'm going to be honest up front. I know. But my pitfall is going to go to Zachary Clamandamello. From the replays of his late race, whatever that was, it looks like he quite literally just stopped driving the car. I'm just going to give up and hit the wall now. I mean, that's kind of what it looked like from the replays. So I like I said, I didn't do my research. Something may have broke, but I didn't see anything that was out there a lot. Like something broke, and with social media nowadays, things are out there like dang near instantly. So I didn't see anything broke. It looked like he quite frankly just washed up and just ran right into the wall, and unfortunately due to that, the end of the race was kind of blah compared to the whole rest of the race.
Yeah, it's funny. I agree, and I haven't seen anything one way or another that said what he did, and he really obviously that was the caution that hurt Bourdais, which Bourdais mentioned. I forget how he phrased it, but he was very displeased that his teammate made a mistake. And judging by the fact that Bourdais was so angry about it after the race, leads me to believe that it wasn't something broke on the car. It was that Clamandamello made a mistake, which I get. Then
no, he just stopped driving. Remember, he just gave up.
Right, I'm sorry. He just decided enough is enough, and I want to go to Coachella or something.
Yes, I am done with this.
Listen, there's no better way to do it. Just take your hands off the wheel and make sure you're not going too fast.
Ooh, yeah, no, but he didn't take his hands off the wheel. Did you see that on the replay too? Crazy. Anyways, sorry.
No, I didn't. But yeah, no, I didn't see that.
That was a lesson that he probably just learned the hard way. I haven't seen that he broke any bones or anything, but I bet he was real sore the next day.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm going to agree with you, even though I didn't see that part of the replay. It's funny. Clement DeMello really, impressed me in Indy Lights. What was it, 2 years ago? And then he only had one start last year and won it, I believe, and did pretty well in the preseason testing from what I watched, and hasn't been all that impressive so far in his rookie races. But then again, he's being unfairly compared because we have rookies like Robert Wickens who are amazing us all to the point that we're holding rookies to a higher standard maybe. But overall, yeah, I think your pitfall is correct there, if not for the fact that it really hurt his teammates' bid to finish on the podium. I think even Bourdais said, even if I didn't get the penalty, I didn't have anything to pass for Rossi, but it hurt his chance at a podium finish. We can say that. Speaking of Mr. Bourdais, I'm not going to pitfall him. I'm going to pitfall Jordan King on two things. One, attempting that pass, in that last corner there. I'm not sure what he thought he could gain by cutting into that corner so tightly. He was going to lose any and all speed. He's probably going to have to go down to 5 miles an hour to get around the corner at that kind of angle. 2, for ruining the end of Hunter Ray's already dismal day. 3, I think he spun Bourdais around, and 4, blocked about 4 other cars there. So I just don't understand what King saw in that moment leading into the corner. Slow-mo replays show that he should have easily seen Hunter Ray and Bourdais ahead of him there, and if he was carrying too much speed, he should have just backed off and taken the wide route. It's not like he was contending for a win or a top 10 finish at that point. But also, a little frustrated with Mr. King. After the race, or was it on Twitter the next day? I think he came out on Twitter the next day and said, I did that pass 3 times earlier in the race and was successful. He very well may have. Obviously, it wasn't on any TV I saw, and I have seen 0 replays of such, so maybe he did something similar, but I don't think he did that move 3 times with 2 excellent veteran drivers that close to him. He may have done that pass on somebody who was laps down or slower, which is easier to do, or maybe somebody took a little bit of a wider line than Hunter Ray and Bourdais took, but I don't think it was the right thing for Jordan King to do there, and for Jordan King to defend himself instead of coming out and being like, hey, listen, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I got a little too over-aggressive.
So I will agree with you. I'm going to say, though, that instead of saying that he messed up, we're going to say that he just closed his eyes and went for it. Because clearly if he would have had his eyes open, he wouldn't have done it. Kind of like Clement DeMello just was like, damn, done. Okay. So it was just, that's not a... That was a taxing day, especially for the rookies. So I can't be too critical, but at the same time, really that close to the end.
Exactly.
That's all I can say.
If you're battling for a top 10, as a rookie, I get it. You want to get aggressive. You're racing against some of the most veteran and successful drivers in the Indy Car series, and Bourdais and Hunter Ray, but he's battling for a 12th or 13th position, something like that. I think you hit the nail on the head with saying he just closed his eyes and goes, I hope this works. Because, generally when a driver does something like that, it never works. So, Yeah. Again, we'll leave it at that. And Bourdais called him out on after the race, and I think was right in doing so. I'll agree there. I know sometimes he does join the whiny group and is pretty vocal, but I can't fault him for pretty much anything he said after the race this week. With that, we have hit the hour mark here. Jess, is there any other topic you'd like to cover? Anything else you want to pitfall? I'll leave it up to you since you've been off for a couple weeks.
No, man, I think we got it all.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been another fantastic episode. Don't forget to enter the contest or buy a shirt. I will tweet out the link to the very generic online store I put together for the shirts. Don't laugh. It cost me $0, and it's just so we can sell the In J Fry We Trust shirts. And again, don't forget, it comes with 2 pit and paddock passes to any race of your choice, thanks to Mr. J Fry himself. And with that, Jess, I will turn it over to you to close it out.
And guys, keep your lug nuts tight.